Hi, I'm Bill Rubenstein, your SAT expert at professorate.com. What's reasoning? We all have opinions, feelings, and intuitions. These are part of what makes us individuals. But for society to go on, we need to be able to find areas of agreement, things that make sense to everybody, things that can be shown to be true. That's why for thousands of years people studied philosophy. They thought it was the best way to distinguish things that are true from things we just believe because we do. If we can learn to separate what is true from what's simply belief, that can help us open the door to solving problems. I hope you'll agree this is an obvious point. But if you don't, maybe you shouldn't get on an airplane because it takes a lot more than wishful thinking to take the plane off the ground. Now, that isn't to say our beliefs don't have value, only to point out that for every question in the world, there's a different way to find the answer. And if we lack the ability to separate true statements from those that are untrue, it just puts everyone at a disadvantage, especially in a democracy. Let me put it a different way. It's an important point. Reasoning and science are just one way to distinguish good ideas from bad ones or good ones from better ones. But for society to work well, for people to progress, it seems that reasoning is a pretty important skill. But let's dwell on it a little bit more, this word reasoning. What do we mean by it? Most people will agree that 2 plus 2 is 4, and it is, at least it seems to be in most conditions that human beings can imagine. We don't need a lot of imagination to see that reasoning and math have a lot in common. But reasoning in the verbal sphere, that's a bit trickier. It's because words and language are so much more fluid than numbers, so much less precise, at least to us non-mathematicians. But does that mean that reasoning in this realm is any less important? Well, actually, it's just the opposite. Precisely because language is so fluid, we need to be even more careful to be sure we understand what others are trying to say. And this is the part that really should be a wake-up call to all of us. We need to be sure we know what it is that we ourselves are trying to say. The truth is, most of us have no idea where our ideas come from, or even if they make any sense. We repeat what we've heard or string together phrases that approximate some vague idea we've never bothered to examine. George Orwell, author of 1984 and Animal Farm, made it clear that if we learn to read and write simply and clearly, the first person whose nonsense we're likely to call out will be me, myself, and I. There's no more important point you need to learn than this if you want to do well in the SAT, or in college, or in life. Modern linguists tell us that writing clear and reasonable sentences and thinking clear and reasonable thoughts are pretty much the same thing. If you don't have the vocabulary, the syntax to describe a mood, a tone, a complex idea, you may not even have the means to actually think it. Maybe we can dream certain things, and maybe in our dreams we can live these concepts without the need for reasoning, but in the real world, in the world where everyone's fighting for their own position, without reasoning, all we really have is force. The choice seems to be living like beasts in the jungle, dog eat dog, or civilization based on reason. And reason, so the linguists tell us, is based on how we string our thoughts together in words, phrases, and sentences. So straightening out our sentences is pretty much the same thing as straightening out our world, and in the most fundamental sense, our minds. Viewed in this way, a reasoning test like the SAT, it's not just some annoying hurdle thrown in your path to keep you from getting that Lexus. It's a chance for you to get your mind into shape so that not only can you have a Lexus if you really want one, but you can drive it in the world that makes sense to you and in which you make sense to others. I'm Bill Rubenstein, your SAT expert at professorate.com.